Hey guys, Jazz Samurai here, and today in this video I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk about music theory and how it relates specifically to ear training and sight reading. So let's get into it. Sight reading for me is one of the essential skills as a musician that you kind of have to have. I started sight reading really young, I'm talking single digit years here. And it has served me very well over time. It's the skill that got me into music college, to be honest, and carried me through music college, carried me through doing session work, and doing pickup spots and things like that. If you can sight read well, you can walk into pretty much any situation. It's a really vital skill. But the other part of that is that, sometimes if you're lucky, you get the music in advance and you're sitting on the train, on your way to a session. How do you know how that piece of music sounds? You don't have your guitar in your hand. You don't have your horn in your hand or piano, keyboard or whatever. How do you know how that piece of music sounds? And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, is sight reading, ear training, and being able to recognize an important part of music, and that is the interval. So what's an interval? Well, an interval, it's the distance between two notes. You can have two kinds of intervals. You can have harmonic, which is intervals, two notes that are played simultaneously. Or you can have melodic, which is two notes that are played sequentially. Those are both the same interval, just one's harmonic, one's melodic. I'm getting ahead of myself. So intervals are described in two ways. One is by quality and the other is by number. Number is kind of simple. You have, your major scale. And we have the intervals are named based on those parts of the scale. Some people will say, they're based on the staff, notes of the staff, which is also true. They're not done by fret. The number has not so much to do with fret distance or even key distance, because if we go here, if we look at the kind of the musical staff, you've got C and D, but you have D sharp and D. Those are both a D, right? So those are both a second, but one is a minor and one is a major. So for me, the easiest way to say it is that intervals are numbered by their position kind of in the major scale. People will argue with me, I don't care. The quality, you have kind of 5 quality categories: major, minor, augmented, diminished, and perfect. So that's a little bit complicated, but let me just run through how you kind of break that down. So you have some perfect intervals, which are the 4th and the 5th and the octave. And you have minors, and you have majors, and augmented and diminished. And augmented and diminished are perfects that are raised to lowered a semitone. I'll get into that maybe in a little bit. Interval recognition is so important because, like I say, you want to be able to see a piece of music and understand what it sounds like. So let's get started and let's talk about these 2-note intervals and how they are the basic building block of our music. In Western music, we only have the semitone. That's the smallest increment, and that's all I'm going to talk about. You people who want to talk about microtonal music, I don't think I'm the right channel for you. So if you have a chord, you say, well, but Phil, a chord isn't just 2 notes, but you can break down a chord into a series of intervals. So the C major chord here, we have, that's an interval, that's an interval. If you're fancy and you play jazz, that's an interval, or even more fancy, that's an interval, and then you end up with something like that. So those are all intervals that we can break down. And intervals, they have this characteristic, this oral characteristic of consonance or dissonance. And consonance means agreeable, and dissonance means disagreeable. So you have some dissonant tones and some consonant tones. That's pretty consonant. So, perfect fifths or octaves. These are open consonances. Number one friendly chords. Number one friendly sounds. And then you have the major and minor thirds. And major and minor sixes. Those are soft consonances. They're kind of friendly. Not too off-putting. You'd be okay if they were living next door to you. You have the major seconds and the minor sevenths, which are mild dissonances. So they're kind of disagreeable, but they're not as bad as some. And then you have the minor second and the major seventh, which are sharp dissonances. These are the hard to handle ones. And you have the perfect fourth, which can be either consonant or dissonant, depending on how it's used, actually. And then you have the augmented fourth, diminished fifth, the tritone, which is kind of neutral, actually. Like Switzerland in the Second World War. So let's begin with the perfects. You've got the perfect eighth, or the octave, the perfect fifth, which is kind of the root of a lot of triads, either the top or the bottom of a lot of triads. Is a perfect fifth, perfect fourth, and like I said earlier, that can be either consonant or dissonant, because if you look at a perfect fourth, it can be part of this inversion of F. Here's a perfect fourth in there, and it sits there, and that's nicely consonant. But if you look at something like a C sus4, which also has this C to F in there, see, the F wants to resolve downwards. In that case, we say that it is dissonant. Okay, you're saying, Phil, you whipped through all that stuff. That's nice. What has this got to do with sight reading and ear training? And how can I use it? Well, it's this key, this dissonance factor, that helps you recognize the intervals. The more the dissonant, the more jarring it is. And you can hear that, or maybe you did hear it, let's say in the minor second. And you kind of feel that going on. And that beating between notes tells you how dissonant it is. And then if you remember the breakdown of the quality of the instruments, you can say, it must be a this because of how dissonant it is. So I said that the sharp dissonant ones, the minor second and the major seventh, or those are the most dissonant, and I think the most easily recognizable. Because if you hear something that's really jarring and it's close together, then you know it's a minor second. If you hear something that's really jarring and it's a little far apart, then you know it's a major seventh. And you kind of work your way outwards like that. So the major second, and the minor seventh, they're fairly dissonant, but they're not really dissonant. So you can hear the difference here. Right? And so that's the major second, minor seventh. So we hear this. Star Trek fans out there. Da, da. That's fairly dissonant, and that's a minor seventh, but da, da. That's really dissonant. Da, da. And that's a major seventh, and da. And when I was a kid, we used to say that was the shark, the theme from Jaws. That was a minor second. And the major second is kind of easy because it's a step in the major scale. So da 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 da. So da da, as opposed to da 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 da. So that's how to recognize the most dissonant ones. And then perfect fourth. I think most people can pick that one up. So you come up with these little tricks and skills, tricks, and develop some skills to be able to recognize the notes and to be able to sing along with a piece of music in your head, you know. You know, so you'd be able to say, okay, that's a major second, minor second, down. Being able to sing along with your playing also helps you build up the skill of recognizing the intervals. Using the thirds and the sixths, minors, you know, I think, again, that's a sound that we kind of get used to. Dun, dun, dun. That minor sound versus the major third. And the minor sixth as well. Oh, how's a good way to do that one? Major sixth. Dun, 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 dun. When I was a kid, we used to sing this My Bonnie. So yeah, when I was a kid, we used to do My Bonnie. That's a major sixth. Bum, bum, da, dun, 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 dun. So I hope this is of some help. I hope you can see how you can use this recognizing of the intervals in your daily practice. Again, I recommend singing along with your playing as much as possible. Also, if you get really good at it, you end up looking like a real jazz monster if you can sing along with your solos. So that's good. And so sing along with your playing. Be able to take a piece of music and take a piece of music and try and sing it before you play it. And you'll find that is really challenging. And again, it helps you develop your sight reading and your understanding of intervals. So I hope this has been helpful. A little long, a little rambly. Again, I've never done a video like this before, but I'm trying to kind of get the knowledge out of my head and onto tape, because I think that a lot of people out there can become amazing players and amazing musicians the more they study and the more they understand music theory. So I hope this has helped a little bit. See you soon.